117 words. That is all Psalm 23 is. 117 words in English. Shorter than most emails you sent this week. Shorter than the average restaurant review. And yet, this tiny poem has been whispered at more bedsides, more funerals, more hospital rooms than any other passage ever written in the history of the human race. Soldiers have carried it into battle folded inside their helmets. Prisoners have scratched it onto walls with their fingernails. Children memorize it before they can tie their shoes. You probably know it by heart right now. Go ahead, say it in your head. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You got it. Of course you did. Millions of people can recite every word of it from memory. But here is what almost no one notices. There is one word, the very first noun in the very first line, that nearly everyone reads right past. And I mean everyone. Pastors read past it. Scholars read past it. Your grandmother who taught you the psalm when you were 6 read past it. You and I have read past it our entire lives. And when you finally stop and look at that word, really look at it. In the original language David actually wrote it in the world David actually lived in, it does not just add a nice detail to the psalm. It dismantles the entire way you have been reading it since childhood and rebuilds it into something so much deeper, so much more personal, so much more present, that by the time we are done here, you will not be able to pray tonight the way you prayed last night. That word is rō'î. And rō'î does not mean what you think it means. Now, before we get there, I need to tell you something about the man who wrote this. Because David did not pick the word shepherd randomly. He did not pull it out of a poetry handbook. He did not sit down with a thesaurus and think, what sounds nice? David picked this word because he had lived it. He had been one. Before he was the king of Israel, before he killed Goliath, before anyone in the royal court knew his name, David was a teenager with a stick and a sling, sleeping on bare ground in open fields with a flock of sheep that did not even belong to him. They were his father's sheep, and his father, Jesse, thought so little of the job that when the prophet Samuel came to the house to anoint the next king, Jesse did not even bother to call David in from the pasture. He brought out every other son first. The shepherd boy was an afterthought. But David knew what the job really was. He knew what it cost. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, when he stands before King Saul volunteering to fight Goliath, David does not brag about his courage. He talks about his resume as a shepherd. He says, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it." Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. He says it casually, almost matter-of-factly, like it was just Tuesday. Like it was the kind of thing that happened between breakfast and lunch, and you did not even mention it at dinner. But think about what that means. A lion. A bear. This was not a metaphor for David. This was not a sermon illustration. This was his life. He had felt the breath of a predator on his face. He had put his hands inside the mouth of a lion and pulled a lamb out. He had the scars to prove it. When David said rō'î, he was not guessing what the word cost. He was remembering. So when David sits down years later, maybe decades later, maybe as an old man looking back on wars and betrayals and a throne and a life that nearly broke him more than once, and he writes, "The Lord is my rō'î." He is not reaching for a pretty metaphor. He is reaching for the most dangerous, most intimate, most costly job he ever knew. He is saying, I know what it means to lie in the dirt all night to protect something. And that is what God does for me. And there is one thing about that job, one specific thing about what an ancient shepherd did every single night, that when you hear it, you will never read the words, "I shall not want," the same way again. But we will get to that in a moment. First, let us start where David starts. Let us start with the word, rō'î. In Hebrew, it is spelled with just 3 letters. It comes from the root word ra'ah, and the most common translation you will find in any English Bible is, "my shepherd." You already knew that. But here is what you almost certainly did not know. The Hebrew scholar Chaim ben Torah, a man who has spent decades tracing the roots and echoes of ancient Hebrew words, points out that ra'ah carries a second meaning. Not just shepherd, friend, companion, the one who walks beside you, the one who knows your name, the one who stays. So when David opens his most famous poem, he is not just saying, "The Lord manages me the way a farmer manages livestock." He is not painting a corporate org chart where God is the CEO and you are the employee. He is saying something far more startling, far more tender. He is saying, "The Lord is my friend. The Lord is the one who walks beside me. The Lord is the one who knows me." That changes the temperature of the whole psalm, does it not? This is not a job description. This is a love letter. But it goes even further than that. Because shepherd was not just a pastoral image in the ancient Near East. It was a political title, a royal one. Around 1754 BC, roughly 3 centuries before David was even born, a king named Hammurabi ruled Babylon. You may have heard of him. He created one of the oldest written legal codes in human history, the Code of Hammurabi. And in the epilogue to that code, carved into a stone pillar that still survives today, Hammurabi called himself, and I want you to hear the exact words, "the shepherd who brings well-being and abundant prosperity. My rule is just, so that the strong might not oppress the weak." Shepherd. That was the word kings used to describe themselves across the entire ancient world. From Babylon to Assyria to Egypt, the word shepherd meant ruler, protector, the one ultimately responsible for the life and death of the people. David knew this tradition. David had been anointed king himself. He sat on a throne. He commanded armies. He knew exactly what he was doing when he wrote, "The Lord is my rō'î." He was making a political declaration disguised as a poem. He was saying, Hammurabi is not my shepherd. Saul is not my shepherd. No human king, no earthly power, no empire is my shepherd. YHWH is the Lord himself. So, rō'î, one single word, 3 Hebrew letters, carries 3 meanings at once. Friend, shepherd, king. The one who walks beside you in the day, the one who sleeps outside with you at night, the one who rules over everything that threatens you. All of that in one word. If this is already giving you a new way to hear this psalm, would you do something for me? Hit subscribe. We decode one passage like this every single week. We dig into the original Hebrew and Greek. We uncover the real history, and we find what is hiding beneath the surface of the verses you thought you already knew. What is coming in the rest of this psalm will surprise you even more. Now, verse 2. And this is where David starts describing what his rō'î actually does. Pay attention, because David is not writing poetry here. He is writing from memory. Everything he describes in the next few lines is something he watched a real shepherd do hundreds of times, with real sheep on real hills. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Beautiful words, familiar words. Words you have heard so many times they have almost become wallpaper. Soft music at a funeral, a cross-stitch on your grandmother's wall. But every single phrase in this verse is doing something precise, and David hides a bomb in the third line that almost every English translation buries under a word you think you understand. But first, those green pastures. In Hebrew, the word is deshe, and it does not mean a wide open meadow the way you might picture it. Deshe means tender, young grass. The first green shoots that push through the soil after the rain. In the dry, rocky hills of Israel, green pasture was not everywhere. The shepherd had to know where to find it. He had to know which valley caught the morning dew, which hillside got enough rain, which patch of ground had not been grazed bare by other flocks. Finding deshe took knowledge, patience, and hours of walking ahead of the sheep to scout the right place. The sheep did not find the pasture, the shepherd found it for them. And still waters, in Hebrew, me menuchot, literally, waters of rest or waters of quietness. Not a rushing river, not a waterfall. Sheep are terrified of fast-moving water. Their wool soaks through, and the weight can pull them under and drown them. A good shepherd never leads sheep to a stream that could kill them. He finds the quiet pool, the slow bend in the creek, the still place where the water barely moves and the sheep can lower their heads and drink without fear. Do you hear what David is saying? He is not just listing nice scenery. He is cataloging the specific, detailed, daily work of a rō'î who knows his sheep so well that he finds exactly the right grass and exactly the right water. Not any grass, not any water. The kind that feeds them without frightening them. That is not generic love. That is intimate knowledge. That phrase, "He restores my soul," might be the most misunderstood 5 words in the entire psalm, possibly in the entire Bible, because of one word. And it is not the word you expect. The word is soul. In Hebrew, the word David uses is nefesh. And nefesh does not mean soul, not the way you and I use that word, not the way Greek philosophy, Plato, Aristotle, the whole Western tradition taught us to use it. You grew up hearing that you have a soul, something invisible, something immortal, something floating inside your body like a passenger in a car, a ghostly essence that is the real you, separate from your muscles and your bones. That is not what nefesh means, not even close. The great Hebrew translator Robert Alter, a professor at UC Berkeley who spent over a decade retranslating the entire Hebrew Bible from scratch, was so determined to get this right that he banned the word soul from his translation entirely. He said, and I want you to hear this, "They thought that the life breath animates the body, and when there is no more breath, there is no more life. It is all over. So I have scrupulously excluded soul from my translation." He translated Psalm 23:3 as, "My life he brings back," because that is what nefesh means, life breath, the actual air in your lungs, the thing that separates a living person from a dead one. In Genesis chapter 2, when God created Adam, he breathed into his nostrils, and the man became a living nefesh, not a soul trapped in a body, a breathing, living, whole person. So what David is actually saying is not, "He fixes some invisible thing inside me." He is saying something far more urgent, far more physical. I was so far gone that I almost stopped breathing, and he brought my breath back. Think about that. Think about the last time you were so exhausted, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that you could barely breathe. Not literally, maybe, but you know the feeling. The weight on your chest that will not lift. The fog that makes you wonder if you will ever feel alive again. The tired that sleep does not fix. That is what David is describing. And what he is saying is that his rō'î did not sit him down for a lecture. He did not hand him a list of things to fix. He did not say, "Try harder." He knelt beside him and breathed life back into him. That is nefesh, not soul. Breath. The most basic, most physical, most urgent thing there is. And notice, it says, "He makes me lie down." Not, "He invites me to lie down." Not, "He suggests I might want to rest." He makes me. Because sheep do not lie down when they are anxious. Any shepherd will tell you that. A sheep has to feel safe, truly safe, safe in its bones before it will rest. So when David says God makes him lie down in green pastures, he is saying, God creates a kind of safety around me so deep, so complete, that my body finally lets go. Now, verse 4, and here is where the psalm walks into the dark. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Notice something beautiful that almost nobody talks about. For the first 3 verses, David has been speaking about God in the third person. He makes me lie down. He leads me. He restores. But right here, right at the moment of greatest fear, right when the shadow falls, David switches. Suddenly it is you. You are with me. Your rod and your staff. It is as if the moment the darkness closes in, David stops talking about God and starts talking to him. The psalm becomes a conversation. It becomes prayer. Right there, mid-poem, without warning. And that tells you something profound about the nature of fear. In the bright pastures, you can talk about God calmly, at a distance, like a theologian at a conference. But in the valley, theology is not enough. In the valley, you reach for his hand like a child reaching for a parent in the dark. And then David adds this line, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Most people skip past this because they do not know what the rod and the staff actually were. They imagine a walking stick, maybe a cane, something gentle. But these were 2 different tools, and they did 2 very different jobs. The staff, that was the long pole with the curved hook at the top, you have seen it in paintings. The shepherd used it to guide sheep, to pull a wandering lamb back to the path, to reach down into a crevice and hook a sheep that had fallen and lift it back up. The staff was gentle. The staff was rescue. The rod was something else entirely. The rod was a short, heavy club, sometimes with stones embedded in the head. The shepherd carried it to fight when a wolf came out of the darkness. The shepherd did not negotiate. He swung the rod. When a bear lunged at the flock, the shepherd did not run. He stepped forward and brought the rod down on the predator's skull. So when David says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me, he is not describing one tool. He is describing 2. One that rescues him when he falls, and one that destroys whatever tries to hurt him. That is his comfort. Not that the valley is safe, it is not, but that the person walking beside him carries both rescue and fight in his hands, the gentle hook and the war club, both at the same time. Now, that phrase, the valley of the shadow of death, it sounds enormous in English. It sounds like a place on a map. But in Hebrew, it is just one word, salmawet. And scholars have debated this word for centuries. The traditional reading breaks it into two roots, sel, meaning shadow, and mawet, meaning death, the shadow of death. But the translator, Robert Alter, and many modern scholars suggest it may actually come from a different root, salmut, a rare poetic word that simply means deep darkness, the deepest, thickest, most impenetrable darkness you can imagine. A darkness so heavy it has weight, a darkness you feel on your skin. This word appears only 17 times in the entire Hebrew Bible, mostly in the book of Job, mostly in the worst moments of a human life. And here is what David does not say. He does not say, "I will never walk through that valley." He does not say, "God will keep me from the dark places." He does not promise you a life without shadows. He says, "When I walk through, not if, when, I will not be afraid." Why not? Not because the valley is not real, not because the danger is fake, but because you are with me. 4 words, the shortest sentence in the psalm, and the most important one. And now we arrive at the thing I promised you at the beginning. The one detail about ancient shepherds that changes the entire psalm. The one thing about rō'î that most people have never heard. In the hill country of ancient Israel, and archaeologists have excavated the remains of these structures in the region of Benjamin and throughout the Judean highlands, shepherds built enclosures for their sheep called sheepfolds. They were simple, low walls made of stacked stones, sometimes built against the mouth of a natural cave, sometimes freestanding in a valley or on the sheltered side of a hill. On top of the walls, shepherds piled tangled, thorny branches, thick, sharp, woven tight. The ancient world's version of barbed wire. But here is the detail that will stop you cold. The sheepfold had an opening, a doorway. And that doorway had no door, no gate, no lock, no bolt, nothing. Instead, when night fell and the sheep were safely inside, the shepherd would walk to that opening, lie down in it, and sleep there. His body was the door. His body was the lock. His body was the gate. If a wolf came out of the darkness and wanted to reach those sheep, it had to step over the shepherd first. If a thief crept down the hillside and wanted to steal a lamb, he had to climb over the shepherd's body. The shepherd literally, physically, put himself between his flock and everything in the night that wanted to destroy them. Every night, every single night. Not just the nice nights, not just when the weather was easy and the wolves were far away. Every night. Rain, wind, cold, danger. The shepherd lay down in that opening and did not move until morning. Because if he moved, something would get in. And if something got in, something would be lost. That is rō'î. That is what David means when he says, "I shall not want." He is not making a prosperity promise. He is not claiming a life without hardship or hunger. He is saying something much more elemental, much more raw. The one who guards me will not leave the door. The one who lies between me and the darkness will still be there when morning comes. I shall not want, because he will not move. You know, we live in a world of monitored security. Cameras and alarms and motion sensors and apps that buzz your phone when something moves on your front porch at 2 in the morning. And all of that is fine, but none of it is rō'î. Rō'î is not a security system watching from a screen in another room. Rō'î is a person, lying in the cold, eyes open in the dark, body in the doorway, not because he is paid to be there, not because it is his shift, because the sheep are his. And he is not going anywhere. That is your God. Now, look what happens in verse 5. The whole picture shifts. Suddenly, David is not a sheep anymore. He is a guest at a royal table. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This is the move from pasture to palace, from shepherd to host, from survival to celebration. And the genius of David's writing is that the same person is doing both. The one who lay in the doorway last night is now seating you at the head of the table tonight. But here is something fascinating that most commentaries miss. Even the anointing with oil has roots in shepherding. At the end of the day, when the sheep filed back into the fold, the shepherd would stand at the entrance and examine each animal one by one. He would run his hands over their heads and faces, looking for scratches, cuts, insect bites, thorns embedded in the skin. When he found a wound, he would pour oil over it, olive oil mixed with herbs, to clean it, soothe it, keep infection out. He would check every single sheep, not just the healthy ones, not just the ones that behaved well that day. Everyone. So, you anoint my head with oil is not just a picture of royal luxury at a banquet. It is also the shepherd, at the end of a long day, tenderly checking your wounds, running his hands over the places where the thorns got in, pouring something healing onto the cuts you picked up on the path. He does not ask how you got hurt. He does not lecture you for wandering too close to the briars. He just takes care of it. And my cup overflows. Not, my cup is adequate. Not, my cup has just enough. It overflows. It spills over the rim and runs down the sides and pools on the table. That is rō'î generosity. That is the abundance of a God who does not measure carefully to make sure you get only what you deserve. He pours until it runs over. And notice, your enemies are still there. David does not pretend they vanished. They are in the room. They are watching, but they cannot touch you, because the host of this feast is also the guard of this house. He has been protecting you since the pasture, and he is not about to stop now. And this connects to something the ancient Greek translators noticed when they sat down, sometime around the 3rd century BC, to translate the Hebrew Bible into Greek, a translation we call the Septuagint. When they reached the word rō'î, they translated it as poimaine. And poimaine does not just mean to shepherd, it also means to rule, to govern, to exercise kingly authority over. Do you see what is happening? Rō'î started as a friend. It became a shepherd. It became a king. It became a door. And now here at the table, it is all of those things at once. The one who knows your name, who lies in the cold for you, who rules over every enemy that threatens you, and who now pours your cup until it spills over the edges. All of that lives inside one word. And then David closes with verse 6, 6 short words in English. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Forever. Not until things get hard. Not until I mess up. Not until the next valley. Forever. David has seen the pasture and the valley, the table and the enemies, the shadow and the oil. He has been through all of it, and his conclusion, after everything, is not, I hope God stays. It is, I know where I live now. I live in his house, and I am not leaving, and neither is he. That is how you write a psalm when you know your rō'î. If this changed how you hear Psalm 23, if even one verse just hit differently than it ever has before, leave a comment and tell me which one. I read every single comment, and I want to know what stopped you today. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. You probably already know who they are, because here is where it all comes together, and here is where it gets personal. Hundreds of years after David wrote this psalm, a man stood in the temple courts in Jerusalem and said 7 words that would have made every shepherd in the crowd gasp. He said, "I am the gate for the sheep." That is the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 7. Jesus of Nazareth, standing in the holiest city on earth, claiming to be the door of the sheepfold. And if you know the image now, if you know that the gate was not a piece of wood, but a person lying down in the opening, then you hear what Jesus is really saying. He is saying, I am the one who lies in the doorway. I am the one whose body stands between you and the dark. And 4 verses later, in John 10:11, he says it as plainly as language allows. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Lays down his life. The same posture as the shepherd in the doorway, lying down, between the sheep and death. And here is something that will stop you if you have never noticed it before. In your Bible, the psalm right before this one, Psalm 22, begins with the words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Those are the exact words Jesus cried from the cross. Psalm 22 is the Psalm of the cross. It describes pierced hands and feet, divided garments, bones out of joint, written 1,000 years before crucifixion was even invented as a method of execution. And then, immediately after that, the very next psalm, the very next page, David writes, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Psalm 22 is the suffering. Psalm 23 is what comes after. Psalm 22 is the shepherd laying down his life in the doorway. Psalm 23 is the morning after, when you wake up and realize the door held. The wolf did not get through. The shepherd is still there. You are still alive. David wrote it as a poem 1,000 years before it happened. Jesus lived it as a life. And then he did it, literally, physically, finally, on a cross outside Jerusalem. Arms stretched wide across the doorway between life and death. His body between you and everything that would destroy you. The shepherd became the door, and the door held. So here is what I want you to carry out of this room. 3 things, just 3. First, rō'î is not just shepherd, it is friend, and ruler, and door, all at once, all in one word, all in 3 Hebrew letters. The God you pray to tonight is not a distant manager reviewing your performance from a corner office in heaven. He is the one who walks beside you, who rules over every force that threatens you, and who puts his own body between you and the darkness. You did not earn that. You cannot lose it. You just have to know it. Second, nefesh. He does not restore your soul like a mechanic fixing an engine you cannot see. He restores your breath. He brings your life back. If this week has left you feeling like you are barely breathing, the weight of a job that does not see you, the ache of a prayer that has not been answered, the exhaustion of trying to hold everything together for everyone else, then hear what David heard 3,000 years ago. Your rō'î is not handing you a checklist. He is not disappointed in how tired you are. He is kneeling beside you, and He is giving you your next breath. That is what He does. That is who He is. Third, Sangmoit. The valley of deep darkness is real. David never pretended it was not. Some weeks you are in the green pastures, and some weeks you are in the shadow. That is life. But David walked through it without fear, not because the valley was not dangerous, but because he knew who was walking with him. And here is the part that matters most. David says through, not into, through. The valley has an entrance, and it has an exit, and your rō'î knows the way to both. And now, tonight, when the lights go out and you lie down, when the house gets quiet and the noise of your day finally stops, and maybe, in that silence, the fears come back. The worries you pushed aside all day, the thing you cannot fix, the person you cannot reach, the diagnosis, the decision, the answer that still has not come. In that moment, remember rō'î. You are not praying to a God who is far away. You are not sending words up to a golden throne you cannot see, hoping someone is listening, hoping your message gets through. You are talking to the person who is lying in the doorway of your life right now. Tonight, this very night. He was there last night when you did not know it. He was there the night before. He has never once left the door, not for a moment, not for a breath. And if you feel like you are barely breathing, if the weight of this season has pressed down so hard that you are not sure you can get through another week, then hear this one word: nefesh. He is not asking you to try harder. He is not waiting for you to fix yourself first. He is kneeling beside you in the dark, and He is bringing your breath back, because that is what a rō'î does. Not from a distance, not through a screen, not through a program or a system or a 5-step plan. In person, in the doorway, in the dark, with His eyes open, with His body between you and whatever is out there. And here is the last thing, the thing I want you to hold on to when you forget everything else from this video. David did not write Psalm 23 on a good day in a comfortable room. Scholars believe he wrote it after years of running, fighting, failing, grieving. He wrote it with dirt under his fingernails and scars on his hands. And what came out was not a complaint. It was not a question. It was a declaration. The Lord is my rō'î. Not, I hope the Lord is my shepherd. Not, I think God might care. The Lord is, present tense, right now, tonight. That is your declaration too, if you want it. That is your God. That has always been your God. 117 words. And the very first one, the one you have been reading past your entire life, turns out to be the whole story. Friend, shepherd, king, door, rō'î. God bless you. And tonight, when the lights go out, remember who is lying at the door.